Everybody, how's it going? My name is Dennis Vigo. I'm in the music production program. For my video, I'm going to show you guys how I use my MPC Live 2 to create beats. For this beat specifically, we're going to use Splice, and we're going to select a really cool song starter sample, which we're then going to chop up into small little pieces. We're going to reassemble that into a whole unique sample that we basically create with the original sample, and then we're going to use some of the built-in effects on the MPC Live 2 in order to create variations of that new sample. And then we're going to add drums on top of that using programs. And finally, we're going to bring it all together using song mode into a final beat. So let's go. All right, so this first step is turning on the MPC. You press this back button right here on the back left side, and then it's going to turn on. It takes a little bit of time, especially on my MPC, because I have a lot of content already downloaded into my MPC Live 2. But if you wait just a little bit of time, you'll be greeted with a start button in the center of the screen, which we shall see anytime. There we go. It says I'm waiting, and we have the start button. All you have to do is press down on the start button, and now you get greeted with the main screen. And now the next step is to find our Splice sample. But before that, I'm going to show you guys how Splice is integrated into the MPC Live 2. We're going to be using the Splice service, and basically what Splice is a service that allows you to use other people's samples that they upload royalty-free, and it works with a credit system. So essentially, you put some money in, you get a certain number of credits, and then you can download these different samples onto your Splice library. And then you can go over here onto the MPC and sync your entire Splice library into the MPC, which is what I did for this video because we're at the Cascade Hotel and there's no internet here. So, but I will show you in this next clip here how Splice is integrated into the MPC Live 2. So let me go ahead and show you that. So in order to see how Splice is integrated into the MPC Live 2, we have to hit the menu button and then we go to Preferences on the bottom right side. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see that there's a Splice icon right there. If you connect to the network, which I'm not going to do because I don't have internet, I'm at the Cascade in Kansas City. There's no internet here, but I do have a bunch of content loaded into the MPC Live, which we're going to use. But this is how you would connect the Splice service into your MPC Live 2, and then you can sync all of your different samples that are in your Splice library into your MPC Live 2 in order to use. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So we're going to go ahead and hit the menu button, and the main button, and we get greeted with the main window here. The way the MPC Live, or basically any MPC is broken down is there's three sections. The first section is your sequence. The next section is your track or your plugin or your program. And then the next section is the actual plugin itself, right? So we want to start with a Splice sample. So the first thing we need to do is browse for that sample. So we make sure that our sequence is set to a program. That's that icon right here on the top left corner. And what a program is it basically allows you to assign different samples to the pads, across the pads, in any position you want. And then you can go ahead and play those to create a sequence. So we're going to go ahead and hit the browse button. And if you scroll down on the browser, you see there's a Splice option there. And then on the search bar, we can go ahead and type in song starter and hit do it. And then you wait a couple of minutes because there's a lot of content in here. And then once it finishes loading all the stuff that's already in memory, you can use the jog wheel here to basically audition all the different sounds, all the different samples that are loaded into the MPC Live 2. So we're gonna go ahead and scroll through these and find something that's suitable for this beat. Let's see here. I kind of like that one, so I'm gonna go ahead and press the pad. You see how the pad turns green? And then to assign that sample to that pad, all we have to do is press down on the jog wheel. And now when we hit the main button and we press that, you see that the sample actually plays through. So there we go. Our sample already loaded into this pad here. So if we were to use the sample just like this, we run the risk of getting a copyright strike because, again, everybody has access to Splice if they pay for the service. And so it's very likely that this sample's already been used on another song. So if we were to upload this to YouTube or upload it to any online streaming service, we do run the risk of getting content ID strike on this sample, right? So one trick that we can use is we can chop the sample up and rearrange it into a different sample, and then we don't run that risk of getting copyright strike. So in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is hit the pad where the sound is loaded. Once you've done that, right here under the mute button, it says sample edit. So we can go ahead and double tap that button. And as you can see, the sample gets loaded on the screen. And right here on the bottom left side, it says trim. If you press that, it actually goes into chop mode, and we can chop this sample by ear by just pressing the pads, right? So this is exactly how you do it. I'm going to do it right now. There we go. And as you can see, all these different numbers that showed up on the screen, these are different chops. And now we can convert this into its own program, and we can use that to create a new sample. So the way you do that is you hold down the shift button here, and as you can see at the bottom right here, it says one shot, zero snap, process, and convert. So we can press the convert button, and then right here under slice type, we can set it to pad parameters, new drum program using slices. And then when you hit the do it button, that creates a program which we can then load right here at the bottom where it says drum program. If we press that and we use the jog wheel, we could turn until it says song starter. And now all the different sounds or all the different chops that we did on that original sample are loaded onto the pads. We can even take this one step further by adding, for example, pitching. You can pitch the sample to a different key, and that makes it even more unique. So to do that, you can press on one of the pads, hit the mute button to go back into sample edit again, go into the program, and then just remember where the end position is, drag it all the way to the end, hit the process button, and then right here under the functions, you select pitch shift. And for example, I can pitch this down, for example, 3 semitones. So -3, and then when you hit do it, just wait a second, it's going to process the sample and pitch it down 3 semitones and change the key of the sample. And then we can grab this end position and drag it right back to where it was originally. And now, if we return back to trim, and if we go back to the main screen, and you can hear that the sample has been pitch shifted. So now the next step is to create a unique sample by rearranging these chops. So we're going to do that right now. So we're going to go ahead and record these chops now. So very first step is to set the number of bars, set the BPM. So we have 8 bars, 143 BPM, which is the original BPM of the song. And then we're going to turn this knob here, and then we're going to turn on the metronome. It says metronome enable for play and record. That way we can hear the clicks while we're recording in our chops. So then we're going to hit overdub and hit play start and start recording. And that's it. Now we have our new sample recorded. Now the next step is to create variations of this for the hook and the verse. So now the next step, now we have our pattern figured out, right, with our chops. Now the next step is to rename this this program, so that way we know what this is, right? So we can hit this icon here. We can say chops, and then we're going to rename the track as well to chops 1. So that way we know this is the first version of our chops, which we can use for either the verse or the hook. It really doesn't matter. It really depends on how you want to put the thing together. And then the next step is to create a whole nother sequence, right? And then now we're going to create a different variation with the same exact chops again. So we're going to do the same steps. We're going to select the number of bars, 8 BPM. It's going to be the same as the original song, which was 143. So we're going to go over here and use the jog wheel, select 143. And we're in a new track on the same chops program. Now we can hit overdub, play start. And there we go. That's our 2 different sequences with chops. All right, so we have both our sequences, sequence 1, sequence 2. Let's go ahead and rename this one to chops 2. That track, and then our program is still the chops. And let's go ahead and select which one's going to be our hook, which one's going to be our verse. So I'm going to pick sequence 1 to be our verse, and sequence 2 is going to be our hook. So let's start with the hook first, right? So I'm going to go ahead and rename the sequence to hook. And now that we have that sequence named hook, the next step is to start adding drums. We already have our samples, as you can hear here. So that's basically our melody and harmony. Now we have melody and harmony, we need to add drums. So to add a new track, all you have to do is hit this plus sign right here. That adds a new track. Then with these icons here, you can select the type of track. We're going to stay with a drum program because we're going to load samples in here to play our drums. And now we can create a new program by hitting the plus sign, and we're going to rename that to drums. Just like that. Now we can rename this track to drums, so we stay organized and we know what everything is. Now that we have our drums program, the next thing is loading samples onto the pad. So you could do that by going to the browser, by double tapping the menu button. And then for this, we're going to be using expansions. Expansions are essentially like a group of sounds that sound good together, usually made by genre or genre specific. And they're put together by different companies, different sound and audio companies such as Akai, and then there's also Plugin Boutique. You can find a whole bunch of different places where you could buy these different types of expansions. You can even build them yourself using the expansion builder by Akai when you download the MPC software on your laptop. And then you can load them into your MPC Live 2 and use those sounds in your beats. So that's what we're going to use here. We're going to use an expansion called Drums That Knock, which I built myself using my Splice library. Just for easy access, and it's a drums library which sounds really good, and it's made by Decap. I really highly recommend you check it out. Let's go ahead and do that now. For this beat specifically, I'm going to go ahead and use this Drums That Knock expansion that I have here, and we're going to start by looking for a kick drum, a snare drum, and a hi-hat. So we're going to go into one shots, drums, and I'm going to start with the kick by going into the kicks folder, and then you can use the jog wheel to look for a sound that we want. I usually like to listen to the sound or to the chops in reference while I'm looking for my drums, so that way I know they're going to sound good together. So I like to hit play and listen to the beat as I'm selecting the drums. I really like this Mike Tyson aggressive punchy kick, so I'm going to go ahead and press on the pad that I want to load it into, and I'm going to press down on the jog wheel, and that loads that kick onto that pad. And we're going to repeat the process now for the clap and the hi-hat. So we're going to go up one, and we're going to go into our snares folder, and we're going to play the beat again and listen in context. I really like that one, so I'm going to press the next pad, and I'm going to hit down on the jog wheel. Now that sound is loaded there. We have a kick, and we have a clap. Now the next step is to find a hi-hat. So we're going to go up one folder, we're going to find a hi-hat, and we want a closed hi-hat specifically. So again, play the sample so we can hear in context and select the sound that fits perfectly. So I'm going to hit play, and as soon as it starts playing, we'll start auditioning the different sounds until we find one that's suitable. I really like that one right there, so I'm going to hit the next pad, press down on the jog wheel. Now we have hi-hat, kick, and clap. Now let's go ahead and record a drum pattern. So I'm going to show you guys how to record the drums in, but we're going to do it one piece at a time. So first we're going to record the hi-hat, then we're going to record the claps, and then finally we're going to record the kicks, just to make it really simple. And that way I can show you guys some of the features that are built into the MPC Live 2. So when we build a trap beat like this, usually we want 1/8 rolls. That's like the basic hi-hat pattern that you can create for a trap beat. If you want to get a little bit more complicated, you can add faster rolls like 16th and 30-second rolls. And the MPC Live has, or the MPC Live, MPC Live 2, actually all the MPCs have built-in features that allow you to do this easily, right? The first feature I want to show you guys is note repeat. You can enable note repeat by holding down the shift button and then pressing the note repeat button right here. And what that does is it makes it where whenever you press a pad, it'll play at the time divisions that you specify right here at the bottom of the screen. So for trap, the standard hi-hat roll is 1/8. So if you select 1/8, you see that it plays 1/8. If you select 1/16, it plays 1/16, 1/32, 1/64, on and on and on. So we're going to go ahead with the 1/8, which is the basic one. And there's another feature built into the MPC Live 2 called ratchet mode, which allows you to assign a speed to each one of the pads, so you can do your entire hi-hat pattern in one go. To enable ratchet mode, you hit the 16 levels button, and under type, you make sure that it says ratchet. Once you do that, you can hit the close button, and now each of the pads will have a different roll speed. And it goes up as you go up on the pads, as you can see. So we can use all these together to create create really cool, interesting hi-hat patterns. So we're gonna go ahead and record this first. So make sure you have 8 bars, 143 BPM. Hit the overdub button until it's flashing. Hit play start. And there we go. That's our hi-hat pattern that's been recorded in. Now we're going to go ahead and add a clap. So we're going to disengage ratchet mode. We're going to disengage note repeat mode. We're going to disengage overdub. And now we're going to find the pad for our clap. That's this one right here. Then we can hit stop, overdub, play start, and start recording our claps. And that's our claps. Looks like we may have missed one at the beginning. So we didn't miss one. What happened actually was that we hit the pad kind of soft and our velocity is really low. So one way to fix that is to go back into grid mode by double tapping the main button. And then we can go ahead and find our clap whose velocity is really low. And the way you can get to the automation on the MPC Live 2 is when you go into grid mode. On the bottom right, there's a little arrow. And if you press that arrow, it'll show you all the levels of all the different notes. And then you can basically find the note that you want. In this case is this one. You can select it. And then once you have it selected, you can use the pencil tool to bring its volume up. Sometimes it's a little difficult if the note is really, really small. But if you keep messing with it, eventually you'll get it to do what you want. And we're going to go ahead and fix all of these, make them all really loud so you can hear them really well. Let's just go ahead and fix this one too while we're at it. And this is essentially how you go into the MPC Live 2 and microsurgery your beat and find all the little tiny mistakes and all the little issues with it, and you can fix them manually using the grid mode. And this is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm just going by and fixing all the stuff that I think is out of place. Now when you have it all together, we get to go ahead and play and make sure that you can hear the clap. There we go. So we have our hi-hat, we have our clap. Next step is to add our kicks. Make sure it sounds good all the way across. So right there we have one more that we missed that is kind of low, so we can zoom in really far here. Find that one clap that we need to fix, select it by itself, go over here to the automation tab, and then use the jog wheel and turn it, and as you can see that one clap went all the way up to red now. So if we hit play, as you can hear, all the claps are consistent, all the hi-hats are consistent, and if you had any problems, this is essentially how you would fix it. So now we have a clap. Next thing is to add our kick. So we're going to go ahead and hit overdub, play from start, and start laying down. And there we go. Now we have our basic hook drum pattern. And now we have our first pattern. So let's go ahead and work on the second sequence, which is our verse. And then after that, we're going to put it all together using song mode and create a simple beat. All right, so we have recorded the drums for our hook sequence. Let's go ahead and switch back to our first sequence. I'm going to rename that to verse 1. Actually, let's just call it verse, right? Let's call it verse. Just like that. And we're going to go ahead and do the same exact steps again. We're going to create a drum pattern for this using our kick, our hat, and our clap, right? So, or our kick, our clap, and our hi-hat. So we're going to do this one all at once. So we're not going to do one at a time. We're just going to go ahead and record the entire thing all together, overdub, play start. here we have our sequence going for our verse. And we kept it nice and simple. We reduced the number of rolls, and we don't have any rolls really. And I did that intentionally just to create some variation between the two different sequences. That way, when the listener hears the beat, they're not listening to the exact same pattern the entire time. So usually verses are about 16 bars long in these type of trap beats. So we can easily double the length of this sequence by hitting this pencil icon here and hitting the double length button. Now if we go back, you will see that bar says 16 now. So this will play a 16 bar loop. It basically grabs the first 8 bars, copies them to the next 8 bars, and that's what we're hearing. So in order to bring some more variation into this, we can add something called track mute, which essentially just mute one of the tracks as we're playing. So to get to the track mutes, you hit the menu button, and then you can hit the track mute button, and now you see we have chops and track 2. Let's go back to main and rename track 2 to drums. That way everything is nice and organized in the sequence as well. Then go back to menu, track mute, and you see on the first pad we have chops, and on the second pad we have drums. So if we were to play this, and we were to hit drums, for example, that kills the drums. If we hit it again, it brings the drums back. So that's what a track mute is, right? If you hit that, we can kill the chops and then bring the chops back, right? So if we hit overdub, while we do that, all these events that we create, so all these different mute events will actually get recorded into the sequence. So that's what we want to do. We want to basically drop the drums in and out at specific times, and you know, it's going to add a little bit of variation to the sequence and make it sound really cool. So we're going to hit stop, overdub, make sure both tracks are turned on and playing from the very beginning. Hit play start. And there we go. So now all our track mutes are recorded into the sequence, and it adds a little bit of variation between the verse and the hook. The hook has more energy, the verse has a little bit less energy, and more space for the rapper or whoever's going to go off on this beat to actually do their thing. So now we have, and if we go back to main, you see that we have a verse sequence and we have a hook sequence. So maybe we need one more sequence for the intro and outro just to build a very, very basic beat. The most basic beat you can build will have 3 sections. It'll have an intro and outro section, which could be the same. It will have a hook version, or will have a verse section. So one really easy trick is to grab the hook of the song and kill the drums, and that gives you an intro, right? So to do that, we can use this pencil icon here, and down here it says copy sequence. So we can do that, copy the sequence, and we're going to call it intro. Just like that. Do it. Do it. Now if we return, we're in the intro sequence and we're in the drums program. And we said in the intro, if we kill the drums, we have an intro. So let's mute the drums, and if we play it, you see that we'll just hear the chops now. We can use that as our intro and our outro. So, which brings me to the last feature I want to show you from the MPC Live 2, which is song mode. In song mode, what it allows you to do is it allows you to grab all the different sequences that you've created, and it allows you to arrange them in a certain way and create an entire song. The way you get to song mode, there's 2 ways to get to song mode. One would be hitting menu and this pad here that brings you to song mode. Another way is to just hit menu and hit the song mode icon right here. It brings you the same exact screen. Once you get into song mode, you'll see that all your sequences are laid out throughout the pad. So this pad will be our verse, this pad will be your hook, and this pad will be our intro. Now to record our arrangement, all you have to do is hit the overdub button and then hit the pad that you want to play first, right? So in this case, we want the intro to play. Then we want to go ahead and start with the hook. Then we want to play a verse right after that. Then we'll play a hook again, then another verse, then another hook, and then finally we'll use the intro as the outro. And as you'll see, now we have an entire beat. go. Now it's playing the hook section. And then it's going to switch to the verse. I know this beat is really simple, but you can imagine if you take your time with this, you can create really, really complex beats by just working on each sequence one at a time and then using song mode just like this to put it all together. So there we go. That's enough of a preview. At the end of the video, I will show you the entire beat. Let's go to the outro. Alright guys, it was a blast showing you guys how I use my MPC Live 2 to create beats. I hope you guys found this information useful. Perhaps maybe even get an MPC Live 2 yourself. And now without further ado, let's go ahead and play the beat. Here we go, y'all.